Hey everybody, how you doing? Lars here. This will be the first of 2 review videos that I do for this unit. Today should be pretty quick. We're just going to go over some basics, some of the stuff that you did in the first half of the Unit 1 slides that are in Sakai. Just a few notes. One thing, if you have not gotten idle running on your laptop yet, or on the desktop you intend to use at home, although I don't know how you're going to do this, please come to the cave this week, and Eric or one of the iLab assistants or I will help you get things up and running, because I want to make sure you're all set up with the way you're going to use Python on your machine. Second thing is I see a lot of intros in the discussion group, but I don't see everybody, so please get in there. Discussion posts are an easy way to make sure you get that percentage of your grade. I think it's 10% of your grade. So that is low-hanging fruit. So definitely get in there and do your posts every week when we have the weekly prompts. Okay? Let's look at some Python. I have an idle icon up here that I keep. So I'm going to real quick get a interactive window. And if you remember, we can just type things in here and perform single commands. I can get a variable, I'll call it A, make it equal to 7. I can get a variable called B, make it equal to 4. And because it's the interactive window, I can just type A and it'll tell me it's 7. And B will tell me it's 4. If I wanted to, I could also use a print statement to do the same thing. One might say, why don't I do B every time? But we'll see in a couple of minutes when we go and create a program that you're not able to do this in a program. We can do simple arithmetic, such as that. We can reassign our variable so that now instead of 11, it will hold 3. Remember, just think of variables as cubby holes, named cubby holes. So you put your values in there, and then you print your variable, and whatever in that cubby hole will be printed out and will be used. So this, let me show you one more thing. Type C, we can see that's an integer. Type comes in handy a lot. If I made D equal to 7.77, remember Python dynamically assigns variables, so it saw a float, it made D a float, and let's confirm that. Boom. So this interactive thing is we'll see later when we run programs, we can come in here to the interactive window and troubleshoot. But first thing we're going to do is we are going to get a new file. We will, I always put this as a comment up front. I'm just going to put a 1 there because it's the first one I'm going to do. And real simply, we'll just print hello world. If you guys are furiously scrambling to get Python running and follow along, don't bother. I will save this little program and I'll put it up on the Sakai site so everybody will have it afterwards. So we have print hello world. The next thing we want to do is save our program. I'm going to go to save as. And I will actually go to where I keep things in Google code. And we'll call this rev1.py. So now the program's saved. The only thing left to do is run, and I'm going to do it explicitly for a while so you guys get the gist of it. But after a while, I'm just going to start hitting Control-S, because Control-S saves. And then I'm going to begin just hitting F5 to run the program. So it's boom, boom, and it runs the program. But I want you guys to get used to this at first so you see what's going on. I type run module, and you can see down here, it printed out hello world. So, not very interesting. Let's make things a little more interesting over here. Play with arithmetic. Maybe I should learn to spell it. Okay. I know earlier I used A, B, and C. Those aren't very descriptive variables, and that's not a very good thing to do. You want your variables to be descriptive so that the next person who comes along and reads your code knows what you're doing and can figure out what you're trying to do. So in the name of that, I will just use a simple variable name called num1. I'll make it equal to 7 like before, and I will grab num2, and again make that equal to 4. Then I'll create a variable called sum, and I'll make it equal to num1 plus num2 product equal to num1 times num2. I'm assuming you're cool with subtraction. I will do the quotient though, because that's the one that we want to do. Num1, num2 for floating point, and quote 2, num1, 2 slashes, num2. That will be integer division. So let's print these out and see what we got. Sum, comma, product, comma, quote. And if things are clunky or things get wobbly, that's because Camtasia and I have not exchanged recipes for a while, so I'm going to be getting used to things again. This looks good to me, though. One last time, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to say save. I'm going to go run. I'm going to say run module. And look at that, 11, 28, 1.75 for our floating point, regular division, and then 1 for the other division. Okay? Let's go and add 2 more really quick. Let's go make square equal to, let's do num1, num2, see what we get there. And we'll play around with modulus. Let's say my mod equals num1. Modulus is the percent sign num2. And don't forget, we're not going to see it if we don't print it. So let's do square. Let's do my mod. Okay, let's see what we got one last time. Save. Run. Boom. And there we go. Okay? So I just want you to get used to assigning variables because it seems very simple, but it really is the basis of a lot of the things we're going to do moving forward, because you've got to remember that the variable is just a cubbyhole. It's just a placeholder, a name that points towards a number. And the key is you're going to be able to write code that manipulates and does things with that variable. And then when you go to do it again, you can change the number in there and then go through the process again. And that's what, while seems very simple, and it is very simple, it's an important concept to wrap your head around going forward. Remember, single equal sign is assignment in Python. One last thing I will do is to remind us not to forget strings. In Python, you can use double quotes or single quotes. Just make sure you are consistent, because if you want to create a print line with single or double quotes, and then you just use the other. It's interchangeable. So I can create that, and then I can say print my name. Control S, F5, and I print my name out. Now, right now, so far, I've just been printing variables, but we can also create string literals in our print functions. So I can say my name is space, comma, and you can see my name is Lar, so we want to ditch that space. And there we go. And that's how we do that. So far this is simple stuff. We have strings. We can test that by just doing a type right here. And there we go. We see class string. So we have those different types. Now, the next thing we're going to do, first thing I'm going to do is follow my own advice and start making some comments. One last thing that we definitely want to do is use the input command. I don't want this to be confusing in the slides when I started it out. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a variable. We'll overwrite my name. My name equals input. Please input your name. Okay. And then we'll print it. Now this should be very straightforward. It says please input your name. I'll put Lars. And then it prints it out. I have no problems there because my name has a string put in it. The result of the input function is a string. Now the problem becomes if I use a number. Let's do this. Prod equals my name times 2. If I rerun it and I say my name is Lars, it just says Lars. Hey, how about trying to print that? Oh, that's not going to work. Alright. That's I don't know if you guys heard that. Somebody just coughed in the backyard. That's not going to work because if you can see, I'll come back over here and I'll print it out. My name, Lars. What did I call this? Prod. You see, it's Lars. Python allows you to perform addition and multiplication with strings, so that was the worst example I could have given you. I'm going to change it to a minus, and now let's see what we get. Run it again. I say Lars. Ta-da! That's what I wanted, an error. You cannot perform subtraction on strings, and the result of this statement right here is a string. So what do I want to do? If I want to use arithmetic, I make sure that it is not a string. I make it an integer. So use casting with the input function. Here we go. I'll just call it number. How about number, not nimber? Number equals, all right, everything in here I'm going to make an integer. So input, please enter a number. Make sure you have 2 parens because you've got to end this one and you've got to end this one. And why is that doing that? Because I have too many double quotes. Alright, great. So now I will make prod equal to number times 2, and I will print prod Control S to save, F5 to run. Please input your name. I will make it Lars. Please input a number. I'll make it 23. And it returns 46 because I've doubled it. So that's the important thing you need to remember when you want to use the input function to take numbers. You just want to make sure and put that int in there, wrap everything in that int to make it an integer, and then the variable number will be given the integer value of what you type in. In my case, it was a 23 down there, and then I printed it out. That's basically what I wanted to go over. Just the first half of the slides, the simple stuff, the basics, but it's important, and I don't want you getting confused, and I want to make sure I'm going slow enough and get you used to the simple things like this. In a couple of weeks, you're going to laugh about this stuff, but right now, you might be asking questions like, what does this do? What does that do? So I want to make sure you're okay with things. One last thing we're going to do, just as a little parting gift, is I'm going to show you something neat about Python. I'm going to show you how it performs swapping variables. Now usually in computer science, if you have a variable, we will call it A, and we will make it equal to 8. And another variable B, we will make that equal to 4. What if I wanted to swap these two variable values? First I will just print A and B. know what? Here's a nice little piece of info for you. I don't feel like dealing with these input statements every time I run this program. So what am I going to do? I'm going to put a number sign in front of these lines and comment them out. So that way when we rerun the program, they won't be run. I will uncomment them when I save the program and put it up on Sakai for you guys. So now A equals 8, B equals 4. Run the program. And we see 8 and 4. Great. Classically, in computer science, what we would do is we would make A equal to a temp variable. So we have that sitting out there. Then we would make A equal to B because we want to swap them. So at this point now we'll have 2 copies of B because one will be an A and B will be just the same. But we want B now to have the value of temp. So now if we do our print AB, we should see that we have successfully swapped them. And we have. Python allows us to do something different, which is kind of neat. I'm going to delete that whole temp operation. Python actually allows you to do multiple assignments. So if we want to swap variables, you can say B comma A equals A comma B. And in one line, you can repeat that 3-line procedure we went through before to swap your temps. I hit Control S to save, F5 to run, and you can see the same result. Only this time, we only took 1 line to do it, where in the past, it took us 3 lines. That's a neat little feature of Python. I figure every time I do these little videos, I'll throw in some neat features and some neat Pythonista stuff. That's what they call things that are particular to Python, let us say. Python people are very odd. So that's it for this one. Make sure you go into make sure you go into Sakai and do your discussion groups. Eric and I should have the assignments up late tomorrow night, so you can start seeing what those programs are. Sometime later in the week, I'm going to hop on and do one of the example programs that are at the end of the slides, just so you can have an idea of what to do. When you're programming, it's important not to just mimic what you're seeing. It's important to think of what you're learning as problem-solving tools, and then when you get a problem, that's the sine qua non of programming. Applying your problem-solving tools to say, hey, I could solve this problem this way in code, and then doing it. There's, like programming, like many things, there's more than one answer to the problem, and I'll show you some of the things we're thinking about later in the week. I'll also do a review video like this one for the second half of the slides, and that'll occur at the end of the week too, because very quickly the next week the assignments are going to be due, and we're going to have our first little quiz. Don't get freaked out by the quiz. Trust me on that one. All right? So everybody have a good night. Everybody get in there to the discussion group. I'm probably going to put a new prompt up there either Wednesday or Thursday, and it won't be brain surgery. It'll just be us talking about how you feel so far. Is there anything that's confusing? I do have a forum up there for you to discuss amongst yourselves different issues you're having or problems, or this is easy, or blah, blah, blah. So go ahead and do that, all right? Everybody have a good night, and I'll talk to you later in the week. Bye-bye.